So, good morning. It's 10:30. I think we start. Good morning. I would like you to welcome to our Boll Morning Session Online on Fortinet Cloud Network Security. My name is Rudi Kubli, and I'm a sales engineer and team leader of the Fortinet sales team at Boll Engineering. During this session, we have a chat and Q&A function in Zoom. You'll find it at the bottom of the Zoom window. On one hand, problems with the session can be reported in the chat, and via Q&A, you are able to write down your questions during the session, and we are trying to answer it during or at the end of the session. We have two speakers from Fortinet with us who will be covering the session. This is Philippe Saint-Pierre, Public Cloud Business Development Manager, and Adrian Sameli, Systems Engineer. And so I think we will start with the session, and I'm happy to hand over to you, Philippe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rudi, and very welcome to all for this morning session. And very pleased to present to you our session on Fortinet Cloud Security. Today we will focus on cloud network, as Rudi just said, and I will present the introduction part. Adrian will present to you a more solution-oriented aspects about cloud network security. So let's get started. So the first thing about cloud security is about the race. Yeah. Cybersecurity is really the only place where money does not matter. If you will drive this very new racing car at the bottom, and you will be on the finish line, and you will see this very old car coming and accelerating on the last race and beating you, I would say, on the finish line. How would you feel? You know, I mean, that is impossible. You will tell me, well, that is what's happening every day into the cyber world. This is very much the race that you're in with your customer. The states and the hospitals are getting hacked right now by a very small group of hackers in cloud with very small, I would say, capabilities. And your customers are spending millions into disjointed solutions, security solutions, and yet every data breach will cost an average 3 to 4 million Swiss franc. So that is a massive impact. How is that even possible? We believe that cloud security is not how much you spend. It's not how many tools you run in the cloud. It's not how many solutions and how good enough you implement cloud native security. This is not about this. This is how you implement a seamless end-to-end threat protection from your private to your network to the cloud. And that is how you can help your customer win this race into cloud security. Okay, so that is the starting world. Now, if we look into our value proposition in Fortinet, this is the fabric. We have introduced FortiOS 7.0, as you may be aware. And this is a breakthrough, and we have also reorganized our fabric product lines around this three pillars: security-driven networking, zero trust, and adaptive cloud security. So the network security remains at the core of the fabric and the solution offering from Fortinet. It enables you to extend your next generation firewall to the cloud. It helps you create internal segmentation, implement SD-WAN, cloud on-ramp connectivity in a secure fashion. So that is the pillar, obviously, that we will cover today, and we will illustrate how we extend that to cloud security. Zero trust is the new pillar that we have announced. This is enabling, obviously, native FortiOS 7.0, ZTNA network access to remote user, home offices, cloud facilities. So that is providing application-controlled remote access, which is trust-based. And we are the only security vendor that enables that through firewall-based ZTNA. So it doesn't matter anymore if your applications are in the cloud, on-prem, running through your network. You can still access your application into reliable and secure connections for your customer. So that is an important pillar. Obviously, we have our Fabric Management Center, which is yet a single pane of glass across Zero Trust, network, and cloud. And this is really providing automated operations, as you know, through your NOC and SOC. And last is the Adaptive Cloud Security pillar, which provides a seamless extension of the solutions that you know for on-prem security to the cloud, and provides specific solutions for SaaS-based applications security. We will deep dive into this right now. What is for sure is the Fabric is obviously broader with more solutions, and you will see them. More integrated with Fabric Management Center and Operations Center. And this is more automated, as we have one click of a mouse deployment through templates, blueprints. We have AI-driven networking and security, and we have much faster response and detection. So that is, in a few words, the Security Fabric and the 7.0 announcement. Now, what is specific about threats into the cloud and into cloud networking? So threats are clearly more sophisticated. Cyber criminals are using automation, and they apply artificial intelligence now as part of their tactics. They are creating more quickly multi-vector attacks, and they are able to evade detection much more easily also. For example, a customer network can remain breached for several days and even unnoticed by the security teams. And detection is even more complex right now, and attacks can create much more damage. So it's more complex, and it's more complex because there is a higher volume of attacks and incidents. And alerts require correlation. They require automatic assessment analysis. It cannot be done manually anymore. It cannot be hand correlations anymore. You cannot operate efficiently if you have siloed solutions. So that is clearly creating a new challenge. And the attack are much more advanced into a hybrid and multi-cloud environment. You will have multiple tools, and you will not be able to manage the assessment, the analysis using different tools from different cloud providers. And also, obviously, you will need machine learning and artificial intelligence to help you fast track the detection and the assessment of these new issues. So this is the world that we are operating into, and this is clearly the new challenge. So the concerns and the key concerns of network security are related to increased attack surface coming from a hybrid cloud. It is clearly, I would say, an attractive attack surface now for hackers. They exploit, I would say, poorly secured ingress ports into your cloud. They can obviously exploit, I would say, access or workload that is not well configured. They can use malware, zero-day, or account takeover, and many different threats, which are now, I would say, day-to-day reality into hybrid cloud. Visibility is also key. I would say key management, granular privilege is the entry to security best practice, but most likely we have seen a lot of user roles which are not well configured or very loose. Customers tend to grant extensive privilege to the user, and will, for example, enable users to delete or to write into database, which should not have this type of rights, and that creates a lot of exposure and risks. Now, also, as customers are into a PaaS or a SaaS model, visibility on cloud application usage is clearly poor and requires new solutions and new tools, and it's clearly a new challenge. Automation. We are going into a DevSecOps environment where cloud assets are provisioned automatically or are, I would say, dynamic. And traditional security tools cannot cope with this, I would say, ephemeral objects. Yeah. So this requires a very focused solution and very focused security posture. And last, it's about compliance. Compliance is clearly the customer and your responsibility as the partner in charge of your customer. It's not something which is granted by the cloud service provider. So whatever it is, HIPAA, GDPR, PCI, you need to really create a dynamic assessment and auditing of the customer applications and networking and control flows. And this is the only way to ensure ongoing compliance is by implementing real-time checks. So our understanding right now, looking into all these key concerns, is cloud security cannot be enabled by cloud native solutions alone. That is not an option to just extend the I would say the native cloud security into what customers have been doing today. So it is not going to create the threat protection and the level of security that customer needs, and it is clearly not good enough. So this is why we have introduced the adaptive cloud security portfolio. And I'm going to present that briefly in terms of what it is, in terms of the solutions now. So we have organized our adaptive cloud security into 3 pillars: network security, platform security, and application security. So you're all familiar with FortiGate and FortiGate VM running on any cloud. FortiGate SD-WAN and SD-WAN connector to Azure SD-WAN, for example. We have now, for platform security, FortiCWP, Cloud Workload Protection, enabling to monitor IaaS traffic and report any issue, risks, or compliance. FortiCASB, which is addressing application SaaS, I would say monitoring and risk assessment and compliance management. And we also provide CWP for container and container isolation solutions that we could also deep dive into a further session as needed. At the application level, we have FortiWeb, which is a very advanced WAF with artificial intelligence, rule sets, and FortiGuard managed, I would say, intelligence. We have FortiSandbox to isolate any threats. FortiMail, which is providing Office 365, mail protection, which is quite advanced and very well recognized by Gartner and Gartner peers. And FortiGSLB for load balancer and cloud load balancing. So this is our, I would say, solutions to address specific cloud and network security. Now, just a quick view of the same portfolio, but in terms of how we have enabled it for you as a partner. We are providing our solutions in, I would say, different form factor. And they are available as a VM. So you can deploy, for example, FortiWeb on Azure, on AWS, on Oracle Cloud, on Google as a VM. And that will be the same OS, FortiOS 7.0, running on the FortiWeb, I would say, physical and /VM. So you have that as the two options. And you also can benefit from FortiWeb as a service, as a SaaS application. That will be the same for CWP, CASB, FortiMail. So you will have I would say, the free form factor, and some of our solutions are even enabled as container, like Sandbox. So we have 3 to 4 form factor of each of the products that I have been presenting briefly to you right now. So that is not only scalability and full flexibility from the form factor across all the clouds, but also we provide pay-as-you-go capability. So, for example, a FortiGate VM can be licensed on, I would say, traditional bring your own license on the cloud, can perpetual, or I would say on a yearly base subscription. You have the two options. And you have now a third option, which is called Flex VM, where you can upscale, downscale, and manage your FortiGate into a very scalable pay-as-you-go model, where you pay on a per day of usage on the size of the FortiGate VM you use. So we have the full flexibility to extend our solutions to the cloud, all form factors, all clouds, and for most of these now, pay-as-you-go full flexibility. So this is why we are obviously cloud ready and cloud, I would say, performing into the cloud, I would say right now. Yeah. So this was the quick introduction as an overview of our adaptive cloud security and network security footprint. I would like now to hand over to you, Adrien, so you can present the focus on network security to the cloud.
Thanks a lot, Philip. I will share my slides then when you unshare this.
Absolutely. I think you can share right away.
No, it's not possible. You have to stop.
So let me stop sharing. Yeah, please.
Perfect. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. So my name is Adrien Sammerli. I'm systems engineer in Switzerland. I'm the SME for public cloud and advanced threat protection. Today, we want to give you an overview how we can protect the cloud. And in the end, there are more Boll Morning Sessions. So there is one more in about 2 weeks, I guess. Would you correct me if I'm wrong? And then there's another one in May. I guess it's the 11th of May, which is the session on the top to bring you the very technical details of the configuration in the cloud.
Yes, it's the 20th of April, the next session.
Perfect. Yeah, maybe you can mark this in your calendar. So we will have a sneak peek into that, but today it's just the overview. So what we can do and how we can help to secure your or your customers' environment. So the cloud is very fast, or like the technology is very fast moving at the moment. So people are using cloud applications more and more. So right now in the Corona pandemic, companies are starting to use SaaS services, for example, like Microsoft 365, like Azure services. For example, Azure was at the point where they were not able to start any more VMs because they were just overloaded at the beginning of the pandemic. So people are starting to use it because they don't want to cover or like to take care about the physical environment. They don't have room or space for their servers and so on. So all the services will be more decentralized. So we are seeing it, for example, in blockchain. So this is a very decentralized protocol in the end. And every user is starting to bring his own device into the company and try to work with this, or if they are in the home office at the moment, they are using their own computers, their own tablets, their own smartphones to work with. Then we are starting to use many different services from different service providers. So as I said, if you have a Mac from Apple, you will use most likely iCloud to store your data, or you don't even know that you are using the cloud because it is just enabled by default. And this is the same for companies. Companies are starting to use hybrid services, so they still have their on-prem environment, but they are reaching out to the cloud providers to have larger workloads in the cloud, to scale better, to be more agile. So this is the magical word for 2020 and 2021, I guess. Agility. So I'm sorry. The shared responsibility model, something really important to understand. So the cloud service provider, he is responsible for every hardware component in the rack. So you don't have to care about this anymore. So he is responsible for the storage. He is responsible for the switching. So the whole network, that the physical interfaces are up and running. So there's no dirt within the fiber optics. The compute power is secured, so they have their own servers. You don't have to care about maintenance of the servers, and so on and so on. So, but there's a huge but. So you need to take care about many different things in the cloud. So the cloud provider gives you the possibility to secure the environment, or like is helping you. And there are others like Fortinet, which have solutions to integrate natively within the service provider or the tools of the service provider. So we have to take care about the content, the data which we are uploading in the cloud, and we have to secure it. So we have to define which applications we want to run in the cloud, on which platform, what users do have rights to access those applications. We still have, so in the infrastructure as a service model, we still have to take care about the operating system, about the firewall. We have to configure networks, and we have to configure the settings of the networks. Maybe we have to configure routes as well. And the encryption is not just given, we have to configure this. And we have to secure the way how to access those cloud applications. So this is all what we have to care about. And the best thing, if we are starting to use, or if the customer or you are starting to use multiple services from multiple vendors, it's the thing that we should protect every layer. So we should protect the data by itself. We should protect the application by itself. So there should be a kind of a built-in security of each layer inside those cloud applications. So how can Fortinet help customers, help you to secure the environment in the cloud? So as Philip already mentioned before, there is the security fabric. So the security fabric is the integration between all the products which Fortinet provides, and also third-party products. And we have the possibility, or like if you are already using management tools like FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer, FortiSIEM on-premise, you can use those tools in the cloud as well. So we can just spin up the same security tools you are using to protect your on-prem environment in the cloud. And since most of our products are available as a physical appliance or also as virtual appliances, so mostly all the virtual appliances can run in the cloud. So we can just deploy them or you can consume them as a service, for example. So we have also native integration within third-party tools, or like native integration to the cloud service providers, functions, and also tools to monitor the environment, to secure it in the end. And as I said, we have to think in layers, so in components. We have to build in security in every layer. So we have to secure our application, which we are providing. We have to design for failure. So we have different levels which we can design for failure, for example. So, but we can dig into that later on. We have to design for elasticity in the end, because this is the reason most of the time why you are using cloud. And we should use feedback loops. Feedback loops is one of the most important things in the cloud, because feedback loops are mostly logs, and we should definitely interpret those logs. We should definitely know what's going on in my cloud environment. So if we have an on-prem environment, for example, we have just an alert from a monitoring tool which says that my ESXi host has high CPU usage, or my VM03 has high memory usage, or there is ballooning going on, something like this. We don't have this in the cloud because it is elastic. It will just spin up more machines. It will just, the application will scale out, and you will just pay more. So it is very crucial to monitor it and to know what's going on. This is why you have to interpret logs. So you have a central, you will need a central component which is taking care of the logs, and you can just monitor it from there. All right, so what's going on at the moment? So there are multiple cloud service providers. There are infrastructure as a service provider, platform as a service providers. There are still private data centers, so most of the customers are still having on-prem devices. So you will need always on-prem devices for network connectivity, for example. Maybe this changes in the future, but right now you will still have a network switch to connect all your clients to the network. And yeah, most of the companies are using software as a service. So for example, Zoom, which we are using right now for this session, Microsoft 365, Box, etc. We have to control these applications. We have to know what data resides in these applications which we are using, or my employees are using without my knowledge. So we have to detect what data is in there, how many users are using maybe shadow IT products. So they have their own Mac, or the example with the Mac. So they have their own Mac with their iCloud Apple ID, where they are uploading all the company material or all the company information. So we need to know that, and we should control where the company data resides in the end. And people are also using different services from different providers. So maybe one provider is offering one service, or the other provider is offering a better service on another product or another solution. So you will just use the best one, or the one which suits best for your needs. And Fortinet can help to connect the different service providers to each other, to work with all of them. And what I also said already, people are using all the different devices to work with. Maybe they have a Tesla car, they work inside their car. They are using smartphones, they are using tablets. We have more and more IoT devices which are connected to my network. How should we handle this? How can we secure them? How can I secure the access from third-party providers for maintenance reason, for example? How can I accomplish that? And as I said, we should start to think in layers. As we have the integrated security or like security model for an on-prem environment, so we have the defense in-depth architecture, for example, we should try to achieve something like this in the cloud as well. The Fortinet products are integrating very well within those services which customers are using at the moment. So we can help to secure software as a service products. We can secure platform as a service or infrastructure as a service products. And we can interconnect people which are working from home, from anywhere, from their camper van at the beach. We can secure the branch offices in other countries and the connection to the cloud and to the data center. Fortinet can also help to minimize the costs of the connections. So in the end, with the SD-WAN solution, we have a very, very competitive way to bring in a very optimized way to use connections to these offices or to these data centers or clouds. So Fortinet has connectivity products where we can secure the connectivity between different locations, and we can also secure our services which we are providing. We have, for example, a web application firewall where we can put in place in front of my applications to secure them, that it is very easy to set it up because we can just enable a learning mechanism for a new application, and then people can start using the application and we can create a baseline. So to see what's normal, what's the usual behavior of the users to use this application. We have our SIEM or analytics product like FortiAnalyzer to correlate all the logs, as I mentioned before. So the feedback loops are very, very crucial in the cloud. So it is very important to bring all the different products which the customer or which you are using together and consolidate the logs to have a single pane of glass what's going on in my environment. We can integrate with FortiSOAR. FortiSOAR can be used to automatically react on incidents. So if we have a breach or if we detect anything which is wrong, we can just block out the attacker automatically without to perform manual tasks. We can also integrate into sandbox solutions to detect 0 days and also scan public cloud environments or SaaS environments, but we can dig into that on the CWP side. Maybe I have not mentioned it already. So if you have questions on what I am saying, just write it in a chat. We can pick it up right now, or we can answer it in the end. It doesn't really matter. Just write it somewhere. All right. So how does Fortinet integrate with this public cloud providers. So we have here an example from AWS. We have very, very different integrations with the different service providers, but they are all very advanced. So it is very easy to secure the environment with just connecting our solutions with the existing solutions or the solutions which the cloud service provider is offering. There is, for example, the AWS firewall. So AWS firewall has an IPS integration. So where the IPS rules are maintained from Fortinet, because we are very experienced in creating IPS rules. We have IPS rules all over our products, and we have a FortiGuard team. So FortiGuard is our threat intelligence team, which are hunting threats or they are releasing and analyzing new threats and helping companies to solve their security issues. So we have the latest, greatest threat feeds or information what is going on, and their IPS rules are maintained by them. So we have guard duty, for example. So guard duty, if guard duty detects anything which is rogue, then it can create, for example, an S3 bucket with AWS Lambda functions. And then it can put in a list of those malicious IP addresses which are performing malicious tasks. And FortiGate can use this list then to block out the attacker based on the findings from AWS Guard Duty. So this is another integration. We have AWS Lambda. So Lambda is the serverless functions which can be triggered in AWS. So we are using Lambda natively, so you don't have to put in scripts somewhere to generate some incidents or tasks or trigger some new functions. So everything is built into the code of FortiGate, so we can just connect it. So we are using Lambda for HA failovers, for example, or we can use Lambda with FortiAnalyzer when FortiAnalyzer detects any indicator of compromise. FortiAnalyzer can trigger the FortiGate, and the FortiGate can trigger Lambda functions and apply tags to a VM to quarantine them, for example. We can use cloud formation templates for provisioning purposes. We can use quick start templates. It's very, very easy to start with, to deploy a landing zone, I would say, just a fence around my public cloud environment to start to secure it. The Security Hub, we can integrate in the Security Hub of AWS as well. So we can just pull out all the logs, all the findings from Security Hub and integrate into CWP. This is what I mentioned. So the feedback loops, we can centralize all the feedback loops or all the feedback from all the different cloud service providers into a single pane of glass with CWP, for example, here. We can also use dynamic addresses. So for container services, we can pick them up. We can use FortiGate to load balance the traffic to the different pods. And what we can also do is the AWS Web Application Firewall. So this is something similar, which I mentioned before with the AWS Firewall IPS integration. Here, there are just patterns or rules which are managed from Fortinet and are integrated natively into AWS to secure the environment. And again, this is because we have the expertise, we have the knowledge what to do. We are seeing what is going on at the moment in the field. I have slightly the same, I'm sorry. Okay, back again. I have slightly the same graphic for Azure. So Azure is integrating into the native functions as well. So here are basically the same. So Azure Sentinel, for example, is Microsoft SIEM solution where we can send logs to them, for example, or we can pull out logs. We can trigger Azure functions. We can use ARM templates. We can also integrate into Azure Virtual WAN. So Azure Virtual WAN, we can make use of the Microsoft backbone, or you can connect your branch offices from multiple parts of the world with Azure Virtual WAN. And so you can use the Microsoft backbone network connection for the on-prem traffic. And you are very, very close to the Microsoft data centers, obviously, with very low latency to connect to the cloud applications as well. You can use virtual machines, of course, security center. We have here also the integration with CWP. So we can pull out the logs from security center, centralize it. We can integrate into Azure Active Directory. And the SaaS part, we have our CASB solution to integrate in Microsoft 365 here. But for the moment, let's go a bit deeper into FortiCWP. How does it work? So FortiCWP integrates with all the major cloud service providers. And as I said, we can correlate all the logs to generate a single pane of glass. And FortiCWP is very unique because it will centralize everything and it can interact with those public clouds. So if there is any incidents, if there is any incident which FortiCWP detects, which is not like it should be according to the policy, for example, then we can perform automatic tasks. So if we have an S3 bucket on AWS, which is publicly shared, we can automatically unshare it, or we can remove the sharing, or we can remove the public right. We can define the baseline, or we can define how my environment should be configured. And then as soon as we are detecting anything which is not like this, like which we or like how we said it should be, then FortiCWP can interact with all the different clouds. And we have also the possibility here to have a scanning of the data. So we can scan what data is in which cloud. So if there is any sensitive data of my company inside of an AWS S3 bucket? Is there anything which is against the compliance policy? We can also scan for threats, so we can integrate with Sandbox to scan for 0 days that we are not distributing malware or malicious files over public clouds. Of course, we have FortiGuard integration for advanced threat protection, as already mentioned, and we can have a single pane of glass over all assets I have configured in the public cloud. So we have a very simple overview of all the different connections. So I can also see how are the different clouds connected to each other. and how are the clouds connected to the on-prem environment. We can also monitor malicious traffic. So are there any activities from botnet servers, from well-known botnet servers, which we have on a list or FortiGuard? We can also detect suspicious user activity. So if a user is logging into all the different clouds and is encrypting files, like 100 files per minute, it's maybe a ransomware attack. So we can block this user out, or we can alert the security team to investigate in this activity. And as mentioned, vulnerable configurations. So most of the data breaches are happening through misconfigured public cloud environments. So there was one last year, British Airways, which disclosed many different was it flight tickets, I think, and these were very crucial. So they got a penalty of multiple million euros. So it's very crucial to have the configuration in the public cloud under control. And what we can also do in the end is compliance checks. So if my company has to be ISO 27001 compliant, we can do compliance reports out of CWP to see if we are compliant with these policies, or GDPR compliance, and many more. Then this was it from CWP. To the connectivity, what I already mentioned is here we can optimize costs here very easily with Fortinet products. So Fortinet SD-WAN solution is integrated into every FortiGate, and there is no additional cost to it. And most of the time, this, for example, MPLS connections are very expensive. And internet connections in Switzerland do not cost many Swiss francs anymore, right? So they are very cheap. They're getting very cheap. You can also get 5G connections very cheap today. So you can make use of both. So if we have an MPLS, if we have an IPsec tunnel over these cheap connections, so we can just route traffic wherever it should go. So if it is sensitive, like voice and video connections, which is which needs to have very low jitter, no low latency, then we can route it over the MPLS connection. But if I'm doing a backup from a non-prem environment to the public cloud, for example, it's not crucial to have low latency, right? So we can just route it over the IPsec tunnel, over the cheap connection. And most of the time, we have much faster speeds over the cheap connections, so they're not that reliable. But in case of a failure, we can just suspend the traffic or reroute it over the MPLS connection, for example. Then we have business applications. So what I said, we can decide where we want to have the traffic flow through, and we can also access SaaS applications, for example, directly. There is no need to establish a connection to another public cloud and then route the traffic out of the public cloud to the SaaS application and then all the way back. So we can just reach out directly. What is a cloud security services hub? So Fortinet is helping you to secure networks in the public cloud very easily. And I have here a few examples of different architectures which we can use to have kind of a landing zone. So landing zone is the Microsoft naming of this. So all the different vendors have different namings for it. So it is just kind of a fence around your infrastructure in the cloud. And to build this fence, it's just a few clicks away. So how can such a landing zone look like? So this is a VNet peering example in Azure. We have here, maybe I can have a laser pointer. Yeah, we have here the external subnet. So this is a whole VNet. A VNet resides within a subscription, and the VNet can have multiple different subnets. So we can get deeper into that in the following sessions. But now to know is we have different subnets. We have here an external subnet. We have a public IP. A public IP is also an object, and the public IP is an object which I can attach to other objects, like a load balancer or like a network card. Then I have here an internal subnet. I have a management subnet, so just to manage this FortiGate cluster, for example. And I have here public IPs just for management. This is just an example. I can set here static IPs which are allowed to access my management interfaces to manage this cluster. I have a HA sync subnet just to sync these two appliances. And here I can start to deploy my workload. So I can place here my virtual machines in, or here, or here, or here. So what's the main difference between this place and this place? So it is mostly the peering. So with the peering, I have the possibility to say, okay, I want to have all my traffic routed. So this is a routing table, routed to this subnet, to this load balancer. And the benefit having such a VNet peering is that, so the traffic here is for free. You don't have to pay for this traffic in Azure because it is just in Azure. It will just flow from one server into the other, or maybe it's even the same server. So you can control this. And yeah, just forget about all the layer 2 stuff. So there is no layer 2 in the cloud. Then I can send traffic here to this, or like I can say here in this routing table to send traffic here to this internal load balancer. The internal load balancer is distributing the traffic between these two nodes, and then they are sending it to the outside. So the benefit here is that with different subscriptions, different VNets, I can have different legal entities, for example, in a company, and then you have different points or different departments where you want to build them to. So it's very easy here to say, okay, I want to give the responsibility away of this workload which I am deploying here, or which the department is deploying here, and they can just point to this security services hub, which I'm maintaining and which they may not have access to. And I can do the same here. I can create many different VNets or subscriptions. So this is a very easy approach. And I can have here all the different flavors. So I can have an active-passive setup. I can have an active-active setup in which I can scale out here and then add more and more FortiGates dynamically if needed. But to start with, it's very easy, and you can just go and start with the FortiGates, for example, with the active-passive cluster from our GitHub template. But I will show you GitHub template afterwards. So there's nothing to worry about. This is it from the Cloud Security Services Hub. So we should also consider uptimes. So what I mentioned before, we should define how we want to secure our application. So I can secure or like make my application highly available over multiple regions, over multiple public service providers. So then I will not need a cluster here, because when this region is just going offline or just drop, then it will fail over into another region. So we don't really have to care then, and then maybe we can also start with a single VM. We don't need a cluster then. So these are the considerations which I have to make. Then, yeah, we will come later on to the SLAs, but yeah, Microsoft is giving you an SLA for each VM, and then you can make calculations what the uptime is of these VMs in the public cloud. Then there can also be a combination between FortiGate and FortiWeb. So if I want to publish my applications from the public cloud, I can just publish them or like put them inside of this protected subnets, for example. Or I can also put them in a new subnet here, and I can put some FortiWeb clusters behind or before it. So it's very easy here as well, because we can just deploy here a load balancer. We can just attach public IP to the load balancer, and then we have a central service hub which is protecting my workload in the cloud from the internet. And if I want to connect my on-prem environment, for example, so this is a large enterprise environment. So I have here everything which is connecting to the internet with a dedicated cluster, with a load balancer sandwich, which we saw before. And for the internal connection, I can have something which is called Express Route. So Express Route is kind of a direct connection, either between your office directly in some cities, like Azure or AWS is offering this, or you can have collocation in, for example, Equinix, where you can interconnect the public cloud with your on-prem environment. So direct connect is it's not the cheapest way, but it's a way where you can gain very, very high speeds and connect the cloud and the cloud applications with the on-prem environment. And you can also make use then of the SD-WAN solution to route traffic over the internet if needed. What we can also do is what we see here. So deploy a dedicated cluster for the on-prem access. So we have here the gateway from Microsoft, which is needed when you have an Express route, for example. and you can then connect the gateway to a dedicated internal cluster, firewall cluster, to access then the public cloud workload. We can also create a Cloud Security Services Hub. With the service block model, I can create a firewall or such a block which is dedicated for one use case. So I can have a firewall AJ pair for SD-WAN and VPN purposes. I can have a shared WAF, yes. I can have an egress firewall in very large environments. So usually this is not needed. And yeah, in the end, it's only for very large environments. And then you can start to interconnect these different service blocks with each other. So this is just for scalability reasons. So if you don't have such large environments, this is not needed. Okay. Then we can talk about the cross-region availability. This is what I mentioned before. If I have a single instance, so this means just one single VM, I have an SLA from Microsoft here, which gives me 99.9% uptime. So if I have two of them, two single instances, I will have 99.999%. And then I can create an availability set. An availability set is a pair of VMs where are in the same data center, but in different fire zones. So they are in different racks. They have different power supply. They have different generators and stuff like that. So this gives you slightly higher SLA, and the availability zone is in the same country, in the same region, but not in the same location. So many of the public cloud providers are having multiple data centers, and then it's just in another data center. And this gives you a very, very high uptime in the availability zone. So it's 99.99% for one region, and then cross-region calculated gives you 6 nines after the decimal. So this is a quite high number, so which you will gain when you are creating an AJ pair, for example. And you can do exactly the same in the other clouds. So Google, we have exactly the same as in Azure. We have also peering with VPC. We are also using the load balancer sandwich. Yeah, Google is very, very tag-based. So everything is working with tags. And not all the applications can use tags in the end, but you can make sure that they can use them. So it's very, very similar to the Azure. Nothing more to mention here. And within AWS, so the only thing which is changing here is the naming. So this is the transit gateway which connects the different VPCs. So you will just interconnect the VPCs over the transit gateway, and then you can accomplish here central cloud security services hub as well. So how can I start? How can I accomplish this? How can I just start with this fence around my infrastructure? So it's very easy with Fortinet to start. We have this references publicly available. So we have this reference architectures, we have the knowledge or the part which is needed to build such an environment, such a fence around your infrastructure on our GitHub. And it's very easy to start with. So you can just click on the deploy link. I can show you the GitHub real quick, how easy it is and everything is deployed, and also the configuration within the FortiGate or the native tools which are being used from the public cloud providers. They will be configured within these templates as well. So, for example, if you need load balancers, we are configuring the load balancers for you. And if you want to change something, you can do this, of course, but you have to do this then manually. So you have just a very, very simple and easy start. And you can also just play around with it. So you can play around with it in terms of just spinning it up and see how it works. And then you can just delete it. You can deploy it again. You will only pay the time which the environment is running. And as Philip said, it's very easy to just start with, because if you don't have a license and now you want to just try some things out, you can just go with the pay-as-you-go model and then deploy it. You don't need anything else from us then. Otherwise, if you want to do a POC, reach out to the partners or to the distributor, and we can organize licenses to test it out with bring your own license. No issue at all. So if you want to do more advanced setups like configurations, licensing, and so on, you can use different tools to accomplish this. So we can, we have modules available for Ansible, for example, and Terraform, where you can describe your whole infrastructure which you want to accomplish inside the code. And for example, you can do then, so if you have already a FortiManager on-prem, which you're using, you can have the whole configuration of your environment inside of the FortiManager. And if anything is changing in the infrastructure, you can change then the code, and you can just redeploy everything, because this is the approach, the DevOps approach in the cloud. So you can just adjust the code. Sorry for the wordplay beside. And then redeploy everything. And as soon as you have redeployed it, the config will be pulled from the FortiManager. Very easy. So you don't even have to log into a GUI anymore. You will not have to log into any FortiGate if you don't want to. You can just change the code if you want to change anything. If you want to have a new IP configuration on the FortiGate, you can just change the code. You don't have to log into FortiGate. There's no need in the end. All right. So this is for more advanced users. You can also do everything within the GUI if you want to. So no one is forcing you. It's just a way to work. But for large environment, it definitely makes sense to have a revision control, for example, inside the changes of the infrastructures, to have everything in code. But for smaller environments, it definitely makes sense to configure everything manually as you know it. And you can also do manual operations in the cloud, obviously. So where are the resources? What can I use next? So there is the GitHub template available, and github.com/Fortinet. And there is the Fortinet Developer Network on fndn.fortinet.net. And on the Developer Network, you will find everything which is related to coding or to developing. So you can just register yourself. If you need any sponsor, you can just put in Philip and myself to create an account if you don't have one yet. And I can just show the GitHub template real quick. Not want to spend too much time on it. So let me change my screen real quick. Okay. Share. So you should now be able to see my browser window. And this is the GitHub template for github.com/Fortinet. And if you go, for example, on the Azure templates, you will find here very easily everything which is related to Azure. So for the analyzer, FortiGate, for the manager, for the web. So we go here for FortiGate. You want to deploy an active passive with the load balancer sandwich. You will find the whole documentation in here. You will find the graphics. How does it look like? So it is exactly the same graphic as I showed you in the slides. And how to deploy, you can just click on the link to deploy. It's very, very easy, very simple. And then you will be directed as soon as I'm logged in onto the template, and you can start configuring the landing zone. Yeah, here we go. You can just put in the username, the password, the FortiGate name prefix, and so on. It's very, very easy. I have also some suggestions for the subnetting, but you can just adjust it. So there's no need to copy this. You can adjust it so that you can use it as you want. And as you see, you can also deliver the FortiManager IP here. And as soon as you enter the IP and the serial and put this to yes, then the configuration will be obtained from the FortiManager. Very easy. You can also deploy it from CLI. You will find limitation configurations. And very important, everything in this GitHub template or in this GitHub is supported from our support. So if you have any issues with it, feel free to reach out to our support. They will be able to help you. All right, I will switch again to my slideshow. Just a very quick sneak peek what you can expect on the next session, on the cloud security session. I will share my screen again. All right. So just a little sneak peek about the Cloud Access Security Broker, how to access the public cloud, or like the public cloud apps, so the SaaS apps. So the Cloud Access Security Broker is a tool, is a SaaS service for SaaS services. So it is hosted by Fortinet and is interacting with the SaaS applications over APIs. So we are not tunneling traffic through the CASB solution. It will just interact with the applications over the API, and it will also centralize everything. You will see what kind of data you will have in the applications, the SaaS applications. You can also scan the data. You can also search for data, so you will see which users are owning which data. You can see user behavior. So where are they using? Where are the people working from? Is there any misuse if a user is logging in from the US usually, and from one or like in or for 30 minutes he's working from China? It's kind of suspicious, and this is an alert which can be generated then inside the CASB, or we can remove sharing from files which should not be shared externally. For example, we can also scroll the data and scan it for malicious files. We can integrate here with Sandbox again. We can also do compliance reports. This means we can check here for HIPAA, for GDPR compliance, ISO 27001, etc. This is what we are seeing next week, or no, in 2 weeks. Sorry, in the Boll Morning Session about public cloud app security. And my peer Gabriel Kellin is joining me to show you a bit around FortiWeb and FortiWeb Cloud Service. In the end, why Fortinet? So Fortinet is integrated natively with all the tools which I mentioned here. So we can natively integrate with Lambda, with Azure Functions, with all the tools which we have available in public cloud or on-prem environment. We can also implement or integrate into ticketing systems, alerting system, monitoring system to optimize or take actions from there. And it's very easy to integrate with the security fabric. And something to know is it is all backed by FortiGuard. So FortiGuard, one of the largest threat intelligence teams in the world, are assisting us, or the intelligence is integrated into all the products, and this is a huge benefit. So now we are open for questions, if there are any. Otherwise, yeah, thank you for listening to me. So I'm trying to find the question window.
Yep, there's no questions for now. So if you have any question, don't hesitate.
Okay.
So otherwise, we can thank you very much for this session, and looking forward to see you the next one.
Yes, thank you, Adrian and Philip, for your presentation. If there are no more questions, I think we can close the session. I would like to thank you very much for attending this Boll Morning Session. And the next Boll Morning Session, as Adrian mentioned, is to protect your applications on the cloud. And it will be at the 20th of April. And then the second session is the deep dive on Azure security and networking, and is at the 25th of May. So there are no questions. So in the meantime, if you have any questions about the Fortinet Cloud Solutions, please contact Boll or Fortinet directly, and we are happy to support you. And yeah, I wish you a good time, and stay healthy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Happy Easter. And stay
Happy
safe.
Easter, yes. Stay safe, yes.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.